Media.
A hurricane in the mountains. It's not something that anyone could have ever expected. Hi, my name is Ronnie Cruz. After almost 2 decades as a career network marketer, I realized that despite continual work on my personal and professional development, that I had hit a massive brick wall. So I took a deep and honest look at myself, top to bottom, hoping to find answers. And my search led me to one conclusion. The definitions I held of my business, of my world, of my life were the very things holding me back. If I wanted to change, if I wanted to grow beyond my current circumstances, I had to wipe the slate clean and redefine. This show is dedicated to helping you identify the belief systems, the mindsets, the very definitions that have held you back, and then help you break through those limitations to finally create the life you've been working so hard to achieve. Welcome to the Redefine Podcast. Okay, happy podcast day. Happy podcast day. Welcome to the show if you're brand new. And of course, if you're an existing listener, welcome back. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. It's good to be back. Well, I didn't go anywhere, but it's good to be back in the chair and recording and producing and eventually publishing this episode for you. If you have been following the show, you'll know and realize that we missed a whole week last week. I was unable to get an episode out on Tuesday and Thursday, our regular schedule, because I was just preoccupied, mentally, emotionally preoccupied with major events happening here in my literal neck of the woods. If you're new to the show, I live in rural Appalachia. Like, I live in isolation up here. It's a beautiful mountain and a log cabin that's on top of a mountain in the middle of nowhere, right? And it's not that we're not used to big storms. We get big storms, we get big snowstorms, and you know, hurricanes even come through. Except that by the time the hurricane gets here, it's usually generally running out of steam. But we're not used to big storms. This, however, was a completely different situation. A Category 4 Hurricane Helene. I'm calling it Helena. People are saying Helene, but I'm going to call it Helena. It still had a lot of its strength and energy, and therefore winds and rain and the resulting flood as it plowed through this region of North Carolina. And so it just left a wake of destruction, right? Thankfully we were spared. Again, the high elevation up here on a mountain, there was no danger of flooding because, we're pretty high up here. There is a creek at the bottom of a mountain, but we're far up enough on the mountain itself that the water just drains down to the base, the very base, down to the stream. And so, we're out of power for a little bit, just like 2 days. And after that, it was pretty much back to normal for us up here on the mountain. So I consider myself very, very fortunate and blessed to not have experienced what so many of other people experienced through this tragedy. It's a catastrophe. It really is. Think of it as Katrina, except in the mountains. That level of destruction, and the storm was actually was bigger. I think Katrina was Category 3. So it was that level of destruction up here. The flooding was just ridiculous, and so people are still hurting now. And so last week, that was all I could focus on, right? Not the the doom and gloom, but just like I couldn't pay attention to anything else other than relief efforts and keeping up to date with the news, what's going on in the nearby communities, where I can get gas, if the power goes out again, where I can get water, things like this. How long is it going to be before I can get groceries? Like there's a lot to consider. Living in isolation, we're pretty resilient and we're pretty self-reliant, and having no power for 2 days days, even if it went a week, we would have been fine. But the eventuality of running out of food after 2 weeks was not out of the question, given the level of destruction that had happened in town, in towns, both Hot Springs where I live and down in Asheville. So yeah, I mean that was what was predominantly occupying my headspace, and I as much as I wanted to, I couldn't get myself to sit down and craft a lesson and craft a message for you guys that would do you any justice, to be honest. And even for today's episode, I've stopped and re-recorded this about 4 or 5 times for the last 2 hours, because I haven't really known what to talk about other than this storm. And so I'm going to try to glean at least a little bit a little bit from well, okay, so yeah, a few lessons from my experience here this past week or so. Number one, there can be a feeling of helplessness that can set in, whether you're experiencing a natural disaster or calamity or not. Helplessness is not uncommon to experience. It's one of those emotions that I think we all go through at some point in our lives. So for me, last week, again, being isolated, not really being able to leave. I'm only allowing myself to leave the house every Friday and Saturday because we're resources, right? Like we gotta keep track of gas. I want to make sure that I'm not spending or not spending, but I'm not expending, fuel when I don't really need to, because we live so isolated, right? So, there was a certain amount, a level of helplessness started to sink in. Yes, there was relief. Yes, there was a feeling of gratitude and being blessed that we weren't, we were hardly affected by this storm. But there was also a level of helplessness that I couldn't be out there in the community necessarily, or I couldn't affect more change and couldn't put more effort into the relief and aiding others. However, once I was able to go into Hot Springs, our town, and lend a hand wherever it was needed, whether it was at the elementary school where we're taking the donations of supplies. Emergency supplies, food, clothing, everything, really, you name it, we were taking it, or helping lend a hand to the local businesses that were decimated, like completely gutted by the floodwaters. Wherever they needed me, I was helping, and that really kind of eased this feeling of helplessness. So one message or lesson I can impart to you perhaps is, whenever, if ever, you feel helpless in your life, one of the best ways to alleviate that is to go help. Just go help, right? Without any ego, of feeling like you're going to go save somebody, like you're the savior and you're going to, whatever. None of that BS, because that's all, well, again, ego driven, and then you're making a judgment on other people that by your standards they need to be saved. No, go help people for contribution and for impact, and help people that actually want help, right? Don't just go help random person and say, hey, you really need my help. No, that's BS. Help people that want your help, and whatever help you can give, right? All right, and what that has done is it's taken helped take my focus off of my own feeling of helplessness and not being able to do anything, and put my focus on again making an impact and making a contribution to somebody else's life, especially when they want it, when they need it. In this situation, of course, being relief efforts from the hurricane. So that's one really good lesson. Again, help, and I guess that's something that I've always maybe not consciously done. I do consciously help people all the time, but it's just become so ingrained, I think, in me that it's just part of how I operate. And when it comes to business, you know, part of the thing that really attracts me to being a leader in network marketing is helping people. You know, helping people achieve what they want to achieve in their health, because I work with a health and wellness company, and then helping people achieve what they want to achieve financially via personal growth. Right, personal growth, and so you know, being able to kind of contribute and impact people's lives in that way is what really attracts me about this business. And so yeah, it's just kind of naturally ingrained, and it was a good reminder of that, being able to help with the relief efforts in Hot Springs this past Saturday and Friday. So that's the first thing. If you feel helpless, go help. The second thing is strip down. Not naked. Okay, sorry. I got to give more context in that. Just really reflect on what matters, right? From a basic needs standpoint, of course. I think modern society, we generally fill our lives with way too much stuff that we don't need, and it distracts from everything else, right? So remember what are the really basic necessities that you need, right? Strip it down to the basic necessities, and remind yourself that everything after that is fluff, and it might be reward. It might be, you know, icing on the cake for you. That's fine, but it isn't the main thing, right? Like once you have your basic necessities, everything else is bonus, because the basic necessities are all that matter. And I know a lot of people, you know, are in modern day are working very hard just to meet basic necessities. So I'm not saying that you know, there's a you know, frivolity about it, but yeah, just don't forget that the basic necessities are the basic necessities. I think again, modern society sometimes calls things that aren't necessities, right? And an example of that is my nieces and nephews, in hearing, especially when they were younger, maybe not so much now that most of them are adults, but when they were younger, I would hear their language when they say, I need this, and I would always remind them, do you actually need it, right? Do you actually need it? And don't get me wrong, like nice things are nice, you know. The you know, I love luxuries and I love leisures, but don't mistake those things for materialism, right? I love to experience luxuries and I love to experience leisure, but I'm not attached to materialism and material things, you know, like because that's not where fulfillment is, and there's no need, right? It's a want versus a need. So really reflect on how much of your life is cluttered with a bunch of wants that you think you need, right? From a basic necessity standpoint, because again, the material part of it is that the material part of it can distract from actually the other thing that you need to get down to the basic necessities of, and that's what matters to you, right? We can in modern life spend so much time and energy trying to acquire material gains, that we sometimes what's the word I'm looking for? We sometimes neglect the things that actually matter to us, and so it just becomes an empty pursuit. The pursuit of success becomes really empty and unfulfilling because it's all for gains and attainment and materialism, and we've forgotten what actually matters, right? So, and I'm not saying those things are bad, right? And you know, like there might be, you know, prosperity and abundance coaches being like, oh, Ronnie, that's very lack mentality that you're talking about. But no, it's not. You know, there's a difference again between you know, prosperity and abundance and materialism, right? You can have prosperity and abundance and experience those things without being materialistic. Yeah, don't get those two things mistaken. The materialism can very much distract from the real things that matter to you. So I want you to reflect on that. And I say this stripping down to the barest necessities, to the things that matter from a basic needs standpoint, and to what really matters to you in your life, because in the blink of an eye, it could all be swept away by a raging river. It really can. And maybe it's because I've been living up here in the mountains in isolation for so long, but I've really, we've gotten good at being, whittling things down. I wouldn't say we're minimalist, by any stretch of the imagination. I think we're very Spartan in our lifestyle, and we really are cognizant and aware of what we need versus what we want, and we don't attach too much pressure on ourselves with those things that are wants versus the things that we need, right? From a material standpoint, and then from in terms of like what matters to us in our lives. Well, yeah, yeah, we've put all our efforts to living as much of that as we can, in our experience every day, right? And I continue to build that, of course. Like I've built a pretty great situation up here on the mountain, but I've continued to cultivate that, because what matters to you changes as you go through different phases and different seasons in your life. So it's I revisit that and what matters to me, but it's again it's just whittling it down to those things that really really deep down matter, and spending more time, in those things, or going after those things, again outside of your basic necessities, and if you have to have a 9 to 5 job or whatever, but make sure you're putting your energy on as much of your spare and personal time and energy into the things that matter to you, as opposed to distraction, which is a lot of the materialism, and those things that are wants really are. They're distraction and escapism. Yeah, 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 yeah. Will it down, become a mountain folk. And, again, that's part of living in isolation. I've been able to kind of reflect on these things, and how little and Spartan a lifestyle I live. And it's completely fulfilling. Again, I do enjoy luxuries, and I do enjoy leisure. But those are experiences that I will go have, as opposed to things that I will clutter my life with, right? Right. Strip things down. Strip things down to what matters, and then once you get into a space where you're you figure that out and you're going after it, or you're spending more time in those things that matter to you, then you're just going to automatically vibrate at a higher vibration of joy and gratitude, and that will attract more of that thing to you. As you work for more of it, you'll actually be in a better attractive vibration, to bring more of it into your life, because you're focused on the things that matter to you, and the things that bring you joy, and fulfillment, as opposed to grinding and hustling and trying to force specific outcomes that may not even matter to you deep down, right? Okay. Anyways, I'm gonna get off my soapbox. Last thing I want to leave you with is, ask you for your help. What's the craziest thing? I took a week off, right, from publishing an episode, and last week, for whatever reason, maybe the algorithm is finally kicking in, and all this time I've spent and consistently releasing an episode is finally kicking in, whatever it might be. Last week, the podcast, Redefined, with yours truly, Ronnie Cruz, saw it wasn't even 10x. I think it was a 30x, increase in downloads last week. I don't know what that was what the cause of that was, but I am grateful for it, and I think things happen for a reason, because what I'm about to do, I rarely do on this show, is ask for help. Our region is in dire need of help, and I'm going to give you 2 links that you can donate to. Now, there are a lot of other ones, but please, before you go donate your time, effort, and energy and money to anything, make sure you vet the places that you're donating to. Okay, because unfortunately, not a lot, but unfortunately, there situations like this, predators do come out, and scammers do come out to take advantage of your goodwill. So make sure you vet anything that you're donating to. And I have 2 links for you that are very much vetted. For Asheville, North Carolina, which is kind of the center of a lot of the stories that you might be hearing, because the damage was just unimaginable. But there's a specific organization that does some great work and even before the storm, they're just always doing great work in the Asheville area. It's called Beloved Asheville. Sorry, let me pull it up here. They're a nonprofit, and they just do amazing work. So it's belovedasheville.com. And you can just go on that site, go on their website. I'll leave it in the show notes of this episode. But go on the site, look around, see what work is being done, and there's a donate button. I'll actually leave the link directly to the donation. But you can read all about them at belovedasheville.com. And then the other one is for my hometown, Hot Springs, hotspringsrecovery.com. Again, you can go peruse that website, see what's being done as far as donations, volunteer efforts, opportunities to volunteer. But I will leave the link directly to the donations, because we're going to need them. I mean, everything is appreciated, right? Like the supplies, emergency supplies, clothing, food, well, especially clothing, winter clothes, if you have them. It's starting to get cold up here, and there are people whose complete everything was washed away in the flood. So we're going to need winter clothes, children's winter clothes, of course, provisions, supplies, canned goods, dry goods, and of course financial donations are going to be greatly appreciated as we get into kind of the reconstruction and the rebuilding phases, which is going to be it's going to be a long road, but we're going to need your continuing financial support for that. So again, it's belovedasheville.com and then hotspringsrecovery.com. I'll leave the links to both of those, the links that go directly to the donations to both of those, and in the show notes and the description of this video. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for letting me talk about my week. Hopefully your week has gone a little better. And if you haven't subscribed, the other thing that'll actually really help out the show is if you subscribe and follow the show. Just follow the show. If you're listening, especially on a podcast, whatever podcast app you happen to be listening on, hit that plus sign on the top of the app, and that'll help get the word out even more. And for something like this, where an entire region of the country needs help, the more people hear it, the more help we can get. Right. So I appreciate you. I'll do my best to get another episode out on Thursday. No guarantees, but I will do my best to get you another episode. So until then, be well, be very, very safe. Take care of one another. Go out there and give help. I'll see you in the next episode.